4, 3, 2. Welcome back to Buckle
Up, baby.
Episode 9. 9 is the hardest one.
This one actually was the hardest. It took us over 24 hours to put this together.
Michael, I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed.
He asked me to order him food before he came here, and I told him no, I'm not going to reward his behavior.
Well, I forgot some things today. I was a little frazzled, and I didn't bring cables and stuff. And we were troubleshooting, and Michael was watching me troubleshoot for like 30 minutes trying to figure out. And he goes, and we didn't have the right microphones, and he goes, I have a Yeti mic downstairs if you want me to get it. And I said, you've had a second pair of gloves? I said, Michael, you had another microphone this whole time? Yeah, we're in the Rockies. I'm going to kill you. So we're both at fault. We both don't deserve food, and we both didn't get any food.
We both at fault, but you came in with a sour attitude today.
Yeah, and you
did.
You steamrolling me right into it.
You did.
Was I sour or just stressed? And you're not being empathetic.
You were the most negative
you've ever seen me?
Yeah, I've ever seen you. Yeah, usually I'm the negative one.
Well, I got to say, that's not bad then. If we're reflecting,
yeah, no, I think
that's the most negative I've been.
You are generally the positive one,
right?
I think
sour. Yeah, I guess I was just worse than being stressed is like not knowing exactly what's causing it. Mm-hmm. I think, and sometimes when there's too many factors that could be the reason. Mm-hmm. It's frustrating to not be able to identify what it is and just be generally stressed and then think, oh, maybe it's that. And then if that thing is taken care of, but you're still feeling that way, it can start to get stressed that you're stressed and it starts to stack, Right. So with all the different things that have gone on over the past few months, from moving out of LA to try to resettle my life and my family's life here on the East Coast, to being in a general more developmental stage of the career, back in that peaks and valleys part, now back to like, okay, now we're in a new place with with new things to put back together and reform and try new things and do certain things to see where that goes. So that unknown place coming from a known place.
Yeah.
There's that. There's just, dealing with house stuff and life stuff. I'm not sure which one it is, but I can just look around and say, like, I have some fixes in mind that would help. Just like my studio is still kind of in disarray where I work. And that's a huge thing, just looking around and then like figuring out where, so getting the environment around myself in order. Mm-hmm. It's like a Jordan Peterson thing. When he like
Clean your room.
Clean your room. You got a little water dribble right there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, while we're doing that, maybe move the mic to that side, because remember last time it was a little in the way.
Front of my face? That tends to happen, I guess.
I think so. So it's not in the way of the...
Okay, Joe Rogan. But there's that element of it. I think for me, that would be super helpful, because like when you're just looking around in the same environment the whole time, Jordan Peterson had a video once where he was saying, I've counseled couples, and one of the first things I notice in a couple that's got problems, man, is I go to their house and they still haven't unpacked from the wedding. And I say, hey, what's that box doing there? They say, oh, it's nothing. No, it's not nothing. It's everything.
Why does Jordan Peterson go to people's houses? Can you imagine that?
Maybe he was counseling back in his clinical practice days. He
was like, I want to come to your house.
There was a time when he was a random therapist in Canada.
Wow, imagine that.
He just was till he was 55. Right. That gives you some inspiration, generally speaking, that who knows what lies ahead of you. Yeah. He became famous at like 58 years old.
Well, that's my whole problem with Jordan Peterson. He's like so thirsty for being famous.
Yeah, I don't.
You don't buy it.
No, you want to assume malice and malintent in people.
No, it's not. I don't think it's malintent. I just think his colors. He's supposed to be this virtuous, like philosopher of the day, guy with all the answers, and I just think it's so clear to me that it's so important to him to be famous. Well, he just enjoys it too much. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'd probably be the same way, but I don't want that. That's what bothers me about him.
He enjoys it, but can you ascribe how he feels about it?
You
are making a presumption.
He got like new clothes. He started a new diet. He started like new hair. Like the whole thing.
That was all conscious. Yeah,
that was all conscious. It's sort of like he wasn't settled into who he was exactly. It felt like he was waiting to become famous.
But don't you think that might, right? Don't you think doing that might be a sense of responsibility to now a large audience of the message he's trying to broadcast, that he has to feel he has to embody that? Like there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. with changing your look and updating it to reflect a message that's now really broad and not just in a singular classroom.
Why wasn't he doing it in his own personal life before that?
He may have been at some level. It's not like he looked like a schlemiel, but it's like he had a small college audience and environment that he was working in, and the university sort of has its general standards of dress and things. But when you're now on a broad stage going a million, like it's like
I would have preferred if he just stayed exactly the same and was like, I'm just living my life. You guys are coming to me now. I've been saying this for years. I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. Instead, he's like, you know, sort of made these drastic changes, which just it seems like an indication to me that there's something else going on with him. That's like what my gut tells me. Maybe I can't articulate it perfectly, but there's some sort of like there's something off about him.
If you watch the message, if you watch the message from like 20 years ago, it's the same exact thing.
Sure, but I think him as a person, I actually really like his message. The first time I heard him speak, I was like about to tweet something, but I ran it by, I think I ran it by Ides, who we spoke about the other day. And I was like, what's this guy's deal before I tweet him out? He's like, oh no, don't tweet out Jordan Peterson. I was like, everything he's saying seems like it makes a ton of sense.
So it's not the message, it's the
I
messenger.
Really like his
the messenger.
Yeah, him as a person, he just feels a little bit off to me. Yeah. Like,
it's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't.
Same with Sam Harris. I feel the same way about Sam Harris.
Why Sam Harris? That doesn't.
Sam Harris, he's a super villain to me.
I like that, but I don't understand that because he hasn't changed he's looked the same for the last 30 years.
He doesn't do the same thing. Just my gut tells me there's something deeply disturbing about Sam Harris, and we have to keep power away from that man,
right?
Or he's going to hurt us.
Right, I understand. I mean, I've given this a lot of thought, and with Michael here, there is something that we need to discuss. These are bad ideas, Michael.
You're wrong, Michael. Aren't you?
I think you just have a very loud gut. And that's what your North Star is your gut, no matter what the facts tell you or the behavior.
I
think it's a gut.
So.
You can't like pinpoint. Okay, because I could counter what you're saying with. Listen, Jordan Peterson's not going on a world tour. His message is resonating. So if he goes out with a sweater and some khakis, it might undermine his message. And the last thing he'd want to do if he's putting his message paramount is undermine the message. So why not dress appropriate for the scale that he's at? And that's not inauthentic to me, but you're just saying my gut tells me something's wrong.
Compare him to a guy like Bernie Sanders, who was relatively unknown, I don't know, at least to me, before he ran for president. He ran for president, and I think what's charming about him is he seems to have remained completely unchanged by the experience.
100%,
except that's charming.
But Bernie's message is one of envy and spite and resentment. So him looking that way works. So he doesn't have to change it to look flashy.
But what's Jordan Peterson's message is sort of being comfortable with who you are and trying your best.
His message fundamentally? I think his message is more about doing everything you can to apply yourself to get your own life in order so that you could properly be formidable and build up a strength and resilience in you to take on a very difficult world.
So why wasn't he doing that before he became famous? Why wasn't he eating right, exercising, dressing better? Why wasn't he doing all that before he became famous?
Well, first of all, he was doing all of that because he's got thousands of hours of lectures on YouTube, pre-famous.
And I'm talking about all the external stuff.
I think the diet was maybe discovered later in life as a thing. He didn't necessarily wasn't made aware of that probably, if I'm guessing. The clothes is fair enough. That might be just something that once you become, if you become really well known and you're about to go out, I'd just be like, I should probably dress up for this occasion. It's like not everyone. It's like imagine going to a mega event all the time. So you got to dress the part for it. But the other thing was, I think he always has, and I'm not being a full apologist. I'm just saying honestly, when I interpret it, is he's always said that he's giving himself advice too. Like his advice applies to himself as much as anybody else. So like people have made the same, like your room is messy, Jordan. Like I see your videos behind you, it's a mess. And he's commented on it like tongue in cheek. It's funny because obviously but he's just saying it like the clinical diagnostic side of like, this is what will help. And this is what I can prescribe. not everybody lives up to always those standards, including me. And that's the most gracious interpretation of all those things I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yours is more like something's wrong.
I
don't know what that
I
wrong
think my
is.
North Star is my gut.
Yeah.
And I think
So I'm saying I
think
can
it's
make these
important
kind
to
of arguments.
trust
They're
those-
useless because your gut tells you what it tells
If
you.
I was a writer, maybe I could like articulate it better, but all I have is my gut.
But your gut tells you that he is what he is. It's like I think you're an instant. It's very hard. I haven't seen you really ever change your gut impression of anyone.
I changed. I
have you?
thought Joe Rogan. I really disliked before ever listening to him. I thought he was a godless man. I thought he was turning all my friends into godless people.
You mean podcast Joe Rogan or like Fear Factor Joe Rogan?
No, podcast Joe Rogan. No, because I watched the other day. My mom was like, "Joe Rogan, the Fear Factor guy." She actually said that.
Wow.
It was very funny. But then listening to him, I turned around.
That comment by your mom is impressive and not impressive. It shows how out of touch she is and how once in touch she was. It really dates her. Like, how could, for someone who doesn't know who he is now, to know he was the Fear Factor guy, something glitched.
That's very true. Something did glitch.
Well, all of a sudden, like, she knows that about this. He's famous to her in a very dated way. Like, what does that mean?
My mother will surprise you. In the span of one conversation the other night, she said one of my cousins has COVID, so you shouldn't. We were at a wedding. She said he has COVID. You shouldn't talk to him. And then within the same conversation, she said he didn't even come to the wedding. It was very strange.
Right.
It was very strange.
Is your mother a robot?
We don't know. I was like, all right.
So
He's here and I shouldn't talk to him, but he didn't come. All right.
You shouldn't talk to your cousin. He didn't even come to the wedding. And you're like, was it just confusion?
It was. I don't know.
You didn't.
We don't know. We don't know. Glitch.
How many times
There's a glitch.
do you just kind of just walk away from your mom and say, I'm not even gonna attempt?
Primarily.
You're just like, what's the face? What's the gesture? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you running out of stuff to talk about with your parents, or it's been that way for a long time?
It's not. To say we talk about stuff, I think would be a stretch. It's not. At least with my mom, it's not. I learned a very long time ago. My sisters are learning the lesson now. I think of there's never the upside of expressing something that's wrong or explaining something that's wrong, logistically, emotionally, anything. There's no upside to it.
Wow.
It doesn't lead anywhere helpful.
Because of a lack of understanding that's inevitable, or because the advice isn't helpful,
It's
or
like,
the engagement is exhausting?
I'm trying to think. It's like, how's everything going? I was like, it's good. We're running low on milk. Milk. I'll go to Costco right now. How much do you want? Like, I don't need you to go to Costco right now. I'm going like, instead of going like everything's fine, it's great. We have enough milk. I just say we have enough milk.
Now, what's challenging about is it an overbearing kind of thing, or over? Like, what was so stressful about that response? No, it's fine.
It's a.
You say, nah, it's fine, Mama, it's fine.
It's like an immediate overcomplication of stuff. It's like
she meets your minor problem with an energy for something that's immediate. It's not.
Yeah.
You're just like, I'm just updating you on
right. Like, I don't want, like, explaining something that's wrong is going to lead to several more phone calls throughout the day that I rather just avoid.
Her attempts to help are stressful.
Sure. And also very helpful sometimes.
Right, but you know what? People make that mistake all the time. I've learned it from seeing like effective ways to help people. If your mom like showed up at your house and said, "Here, I got you some milk." Oh, thanks. Without ever bothering you about it, that would be great. The problem is a lot of people ask you, "What can I do for you? What can I?" And then the stress is on you to solve your problem for them. And you're like, it was my problem, but now it's your problem because you want to help, but I have to instruct you. Like, now you're making me a manager, and I don't want to do that. I'll get the milk myself. And people always, there's two types of people I've noticed, and I used to probably be one of the people who are like, what can I do? What can I do? Which is an annoying question, as opposed to Razi, who will just do things and help and and doesn't ask. You know,
what'll she do? What's an example?
I just mean the proactive, like here, it's done.
Right.
Here's what I did. You know.
Right. So, a good example of that is on Thanksgiving with like setting the table. It's like what can I do to help with the table? It's like you know what to do. Go get plates.
That is my go-to.
And forks and knives.
When I'm helping, I walk around and I touch chairs. I point over at things. I look busy. I do nothing.
Yeah.
That's my move.
Right. So it was Sarah and I fielding a lot of what can we do to help, and it was like. And you can do anything. Like use your imagination.
Correct.
Go do
but
it.
Like, don't put it on me to instruct you.
Right.
Now you're causing me stress.
Right. It's also you don't want to help.
And then a narcissist would say, "I'm just offering to help," and they got so upset. I was being so helpful.
Right. Right.
And now we're getting to the dark stuff. But we don't have to. Talk
But it is it's something I do also where it's like you don't actually want to do the effort, but you want the credit for asking, so you ask.
But even if you do, sometimes people mistakenly think that question is a stress reliever when it's a stress causer.
Right.
And that's why you don't ask your parents or update your parents on anything.
Right.
To circle back, we went from my feeling sour to Jordan Peterson, why he's legit and you're wrong, to the point I was making at the very beginning was just that when you can't identify the single marker of something, like it can be everything pulling you in different directions. So then I think the answer is just to have to like take that initiative of getting things in order. Just put the thing. I have like instruments in my studio that have to be hung up, so I'm just waiting on I want to do it properly. So I want to get someone who can help, like do it properly, so that I don't mess up the walls. So I have all this stuff that's just there. So existing in that state, and being hungry, is what I was feeling when we first started. All right,
gotcha.
And yes, being being busy too. Like busy with stuff is good. Those are the problems I want to have.
Right.
I don't want to have the problems of not being busy. I'd rather have like busy problems with work stuff and all of that. But you wanted to push this before we were talking pre-podcast into like the stretched content creator space. Go.
Right. Well, you mentioned possibly some of the source of the stress is the constant output of stuff. And I've been noticing, I'm like pretty good about social media. Like I don't have Facebook on my phone. I'm not on Twitter at all. And like Instagram is the one thing I check, but
you're such a you'd be such a natural tweeter. Like
I didn't know. I tweeted a lot, and then Trump. I was obsessed with Twitter up until the 2016 election, and then he won. And I talked about it on an earlier episode. I was like, well, what was the point of any of this? This was a complete waste of time. This didn't help. And
you felt so informed and so misled.
Exactly. And I was so anxious for so many months. And I was like, this is silly.
Thinking, so just to clarify, you thought like, okay, we have this figured out. Everybody knows that Trump's going to get destroyed in 2016 or whatever. And everybody is of one mind about it.
Right.
And then they were also wrong.
And I was pretty conscious of the fact that anything that said Trump, I would click on. I was like, it's making me anxious and it helps to click on these articles. I was like, this is going to get a lot worse. And also, it was just very clear to me that like, every time I go on Twitter, I feel worse than I did before I went. It never, ever, ever makes you feel better. Or it never, ever made me feel better than before. So like, this is silly. So I deleted it for like, a day or two, and I just haven't been back on since. But Instagram is the one thing I check, but it's pretty fun. Like I go through, it's not like stressful. I don't know. It's kind of nice. But with Buckle Up, I find now that I'm posting reels and stuff, I'm very back on the every 10 minutes checking how many views,
the drug,
how many likes, and
just
it's
check your computer to make sure it's recording.
It's I'm like
good.
I'm very much back in the addictive cycle of Instagram, and it sucks.
So here's the thing, like it does suck, like the struggle that people talk about of being addicted to this sort of rush of, the likes and all of that, but also just the growth, but also the demands that it places on you to do it can risk a lot of stress and unhappiness, right? Like, why am I like, I feel so much better without all of this in my life. But you know what? I would also maybe be equally, if not more, unfulfilled without these tools and this ability to exert and express and put out this creativity. So both battles exist. Like, which unhappy do you want to be? Like, which disappointed kind of thing? And maybe there's a balance, but like, do you want to be the person who's like, man, I wish I had a space that like I had an audience. I wish I had a thing. I wish I had this. I want these things. Like, I want, but I'm not doing anything to get it. Like we spoke about on the other podcast.
Yeah.
Or the stress involved in having to build that audience, which you do desire, but it takes a lot of that unpleasantness.
So
which one do you want?
Part of the question now, which brings to like a pretty interesting topic about like crypto, and some of the other stuff. It's because you're creating all this, but you said like you're building an audience every time you put up a reel. You're building an audience. The question really is really what are you doing? Like, are you just getting views and likes and kind of like what is that? You can use it to build an audience and maybe make some money sometime in the future if you want, if you can. But I mean, truly, you're doing nothing. You're seeing little numbers go up on a screen. Your material life has not changed at all. It's all kind of happening in your brain.
In the short term, I mean, we can go there. We can go down that road. First of all, I do know what All In podcast is. I see it on TikTok all the time. When you brought it up last week.
What?
All In, or whatever that one is called?
The finance guys?
Yeah, what's it called? It's called All In?
It's not called All In. I can't check right now, but
wasn't it called the All In podcast?
Maybe it was.
Yeah, with the DOAs that you talked about. DAOs. Those guys who like chit chat about finance.
Yeah, there's like
I think it's called All In.
Okay, maybe.
Either way, I've been watching it forever. I didn't know what you were talking about, but I'm like, these guys. Yeah, this is one guy who was like, we need to stop Mark Zuckerberg at every turn. That one guy, and they always they're talking about.
They're fun. They're like fun. Yeah, like edgy. It's like a white guy.
Anyway, you're saying, what are you doing? You're doing nothing.
So what I heard an interesting podcast on the Tim Ferriss podcast with Naval Ravikant and Chris Dixon. Tim Ferriss has a great Naval Ravikant on the Patreon line.
What do you mean? Yeah.
He's this silver-tongued genius. I heard him on Joe Rogan the other day. He went, everybody can be rich. He's like, he just goes around telling everyone, you can be rich and you can be rich, and I'll tell you how. But when he says it, you're like, oh, I can be? 100%. Tell me, Naval. Tell me how I can be rich. Anyway, he was talking about the difference between Web 2, which is like Instagram, social media, content creation.
I love this Web 3's coming, guys.
And Web 3, which is like potentially what you could build with these like blockchain applications on the blockchain, which is just kind of like a fancy way of saying that, is that instead of just getting likes and kind of nothingness, you're getting ownership of the network, which is like a very seismological shift in
ownership of what network? Of the art?
Of whatever platform you're contributing to. So the truth is, I don't really understand how it works or much more than that, but I think presumably you'd be getting like tokens in exchange for what you're putting on there, and also you can take that work with you elsewhere if you want. Right. So right now we put reels up, and we can't take a reel and put it elsewhere. We can take the video and repurpose it for TikTok or whatever, but it's Instagram's video now. And they're basically profiting off of the work we're doing, and like they're giving us likes back, and we can take those likes and go make money with it maybe. But really, it's kind of like this ethereal nothingness. Whereas on
I'll respond fully.
And
properly.
Otherwise, the other kind of model would be like Instagram shares 0.0 times a million 1% of their profits with us because we contributed to their growth that quarter. So we made $1 trillion. We're going to give you guys $10 just like for putting stuff on there.
NBC pays the studios. These become more like studios because they're broadcasters, and they're paying the actors and the contributors to the studio for the art.
Or they're paying the production company to rent.
However, like it's like a full circle. Like now you're like participating in these platforms, and you're contributing to them by putting up stuff. So you're going to get paid by them in some way, and they're creeping into that.
It's not paid by them. You're owning part of. You're not getting paid by them. You're getting paid.
Or you're owning stake in
You're owning part of it.
We don't know. That's still that amorphous space. Conceptually, there's a hiccup. I can't quite get it.
But we will be rich, I think. That's the takeaway.
Okay, so I have a couple things to say about your point about ultimately what are you really doing. I think that you could have made that exact same argument about Joe Rogan's podcast when he started. When he was just on Ustream with some buddies, chit-chatting away. What are they doing? They're not doing anything. They're just talking. Hey, and some more people listening. Okay, and then maybe some other people are listening, and maybe some other people. Not one person has ever paid for the Joe Rogan podcast, maybe until very recently. But he was already you could qualify him as mega successful as a podcaster before a single person was paying him directly for it. Yeah. Gmail's free. Like, what are they doing? I mean, you get where I'm going.
You know, it'd be funny if Joe Rogan sold like floppy disks of the Joe Rogan podcast, like AOL, to elderly people, where he's like, yeah, this is how you get the podcast.
A Joe Rogan floppy disk would sell on
for
eBay.
10. We should make an NFT Joe Rogan floppy. You just put it in your computer, and now you have the Joe Rogan podcast. And you can talk about it with your grandkids. It's just $10 a month.
You get where my point, though. It's that when he started, you couldn't ascribe what this would be or how it would be valuable or how we would make money from it. He's just chatting on Ustream for free. He's not
Right.
charging anybody admission. Like the fees for exchange of the service he's providing was a long haul, took 10 years
Right.
of growth.
Right.
And then he built up an audience.
Right.
Now that audience started coming to his shows. If that's something you do, if you perform live, that's something you do. Well, if you're selling merchandise, and then I let you go. I let you go. But my point is, it's very easy to take that mindset that you're saying in the short term when you're just starting. I mean, we know that Tim Dillon's Patreon is getting over 6 figures a month as a homegrown audience that he's built through his podcast, through these means of building an audience. So I just think you seem to be, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, sort of minimizing or downplaying the power of that. These YouTubers, everyone used to knock it. Oh my God. Can you believe like 10 years ago, people were like, can you believe people are like claiming they want to be a YouTuber? And now everyone's like, okay, this is like the new world of entertainment.
So it's very different. No, I'm not. I'm not knocking the power of these platforms to help you go out and flip that into gold.
So that's just I'm answering your question. You're
yeah.
saying, what are you doing? What is that? You're collecting likes and reels and this and that. It's like you're building this audience that eventually becomes something that can support you in what you do. And ultimately, it's not for the likes, like for that little reward. It's so that like if you value the entertainer-entertainee relationship, that's what I value.
That's true, but I think that says more about the creators who are going out and doing something with those likes than anything else. What I think, just like making space for that empty feeling you get when you're addicted to checking it. That empty space is this truly is just nothing. I can take nothing and turn it into something, but Instagram truly gives you back a feeling in your brain, and that's it. They don't give you back anything more than that, which is a funny relationship because they're making billions and billions of dollars and giving you back a feeling in your brain, which is just like making the space for like, why do I feel so shitty sometimes?
The question is it that, or is it just that this is difficult, and it's difficult if one day soon, sooner rather than later, we have a massive audience and we're doing this and we're funded and we're supported, we do all this, would that nothing go away, or would it still be there?
But that would be saying a lot about our ability to get advertisers, to build relationships, to reach out to our audience, to host live events.
Yeah.
That's not Instagram. I'm saying like
but it is. How did people find us?
Right. But Instagram, there's no one at Instagram going. There's no one at Instagram who knows our name. Like they built the platform.
Not an Instagram corporate, you're saying.
They built a platform that allowed us to do that, but the actual dollars that come in.
But take that platform away. It doesn't exist. And therefore that nothingness, emptiness doesn't exist.
Both.
It's gone.
It's both.
We sit here talking to ourselves.
Yeah, it's both. That'd be nice too.
We've been doing that
People
for years.
used to do that.
No one's paying us or supporting us to do that. We've been doing that forever. But the point is, it's very easy to take it all for granted, all because in the small price to pay is that little bit of nothingness that you have to regulate. You have to try to not overdo it and not get too crazy.
Yeah.
So maybe the answer is, it's not like a double-edged sword, or it is. It's just that you have to just watch yourself not to go too crazy and take proper breaks and do those things. Yeah. Because it's a small price to pay, that little feeling of yuckiness that I've been doing it too much, I'm checking too much.
Right.
And it's just stay consistent, put out the work, and do what you have to do. Yeah. But in the end, obviously, I side with that mindset over, I'm just going to toss it all. Because otherwise I would kick myself for saying, like, I have this stuff I want to put out into the world, these funny videos, these podcasts, these pieces of music, whatever it is, that I want to reach people, and I have the tools. That there's just no excuse other than putting up with that unpleasantness that you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, so it's. I mean, you're right. I mean that.
That's the
optimistic take.
It's the motherfucking D-O-double-G. I should turn to the camera so I can freeze frame that.
It's funny to hear the.
We should do Thug Life compilations on this podcast. Of like very minor things, so I just walk away after talking to my mom. Have you seen those videos?
I don't think I have. I don't know the reference.
Do you not know the Thug Life videos?
No.
Oh man, it's like debates, politics, and somebody gets owned. So they have like Ben Shapiro Thug Life compilations, and he goes, you explain to me why, blah, 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 and that's why. Explain to me how that happened. And they freeze frame it, put sunglasses on, and they put
Got it.
Oh, you got to see it. It's a Thug Life
I do
meme.
have to see it.
It's a meme.
We got to get like a screen up here. We can
So
put
anytime you
stuff
say
up.
a good line or a zinger, you freeze frame it, put sunglasses on, and it's the Anyway, you were saying the small unpleasantness that you have to put up with.
Yeah,
is the trade-off.
Well, yeah, it's. I don't know if I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to give you the launch of what you were. Where you were at.
I think the fact that we think of it as small unpleasantness is a little bit of the hoax that these sort of Web 2 companies have gotten us to believe. And it's funny to hear people like Naval and Chris Dixon, who are these guys who made...
Who's Chris Dixon?
Chris Dixon, I believe, and I could be way off about this, I think he was an early Facebook employee, who went off on his own and started investing. Like early investor in like Uber and like sort of like the big Web 2 mobile companies. He could have also just been an investor from the beginning. Now he's a partner at Andreessen Horowitz, who like is very big into crypto. I think he's on Shark Tank.
Oh, maybe.
Is that him?
I have no idea.
Anyway.
Oh, did he do GoPro?
He
the
did
GoPro guy, but
no.
he's one of these cowboy-looking guys?
No.
Okay, so I don't know.
Anyway, so whatever. These guys who made like, absurd amounts of wealth investing in like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Uber and all those, now they're coming out very hard being like, those are all a scam. We were all scammed by these companies. Why does Mark Zuckerberg control the entire thing? It should be, decentralized, and like that's what's coming next. And it's so funny to hear them talk as if they're these angels is a weird word because of angel investors, but they're like these saintly philanthropic, like nice people who are just trying to help us. We're like, you're the ones who started these companies.
Your gut is screaming loud and clear. You're like, sketch. I knew it. You're easy for you to say you benefited greatly and financially after all these companies, and now you're shitting on it.
It's like those guys in The Social Dilemma. They're like, yeah, I worked at Facebook for 10 years, and now I'm coming out and saying it's an awful place. That's after I made $25 million, and I can just do whatever the fuck I want for the rest of my life. Right. Now I'm willing to say Facebook's awful. Whereas if you were given you would go back and probably do the same exact thing if you could make $25 million and then go say, yeah, that was a mistake.
So this is why our nature is so different, because I'm such a benefit of the doubt guy, and you're such a malicious intent. Where's the angle here guy? Like very suspicious of intentions by default. Like you're like, okay. So what I would say is, it could be the case that when these companies came out, like you said once before, when we were talking about Meta, they were groundbreaking, they were disruptive, and it got everybody excited. And what happened was they overplayed their hand and began taking for granted their user base. And then it became a thing where, listen, we invested when these companies were groundbreaking, and they've been around so long that now the next phase is the evolutionary phase. And what these people, if they don't evolve into platforms that are allowing its creators to thrive, we're going to move on to Web 3.
I do think that's the case, but I also think someone has to call these people out and treat them like powerful, like men who are wealthy beyond belief, and not like, you're a good guy, I'm sure you meant the best. Like, let's call these people
so you're
out.
one Q&A away at a conference from asking this question. This is the question
I would never get up at a conference and ask anything.
You don't got the balls to put this question to them. You guys benefited substantially from these companies, and now you seem to be knocking them. Don't you see how that could be a little bit suspect in terms of your credibility?
And I'm sure they'd say
it's the motherfucking double G.
I'm sure they'd say something really smart and convincing, and I would sit down with my tail between my legs. I'm sure of it. Like, I'm sure they have a great answer for it.
But I'm so excited to thug life this episode. We're just going to do it all over.
Can you do it like mid-episode?
But you're sure that that's the real answer, in a sense, that like at one point they were groundbreaking, disruptive entities. Now they've become the standard in terms of where people are at.
Yeah.
But what they're missing is this, like what Patreon and all these other platforms have. You know what? I don't know what people talk about Web 3. There's different things people talk about. They talk about like the different niches of the internet
that
are going to be
to anyone listening what Web 1, Web 2, Web 3 is, just as like a quick thing. Would you be able to do it, you think?
Let's take a gander. I could guess, and you probably follow it closer than I do.
A little bit.
Web 1. Web 1. The initial phase of the internet. 1999. The bubble. The .com boom. AOL. Chat. But no mobile, no social media, initial desktop computing, internet power, the ability to look up information, but all tied to a desktop. And then I would guess that Web 2 was all about the mobile internet, the network expanding to people's phones, handheld, and the hyperconnectedness of social media, the social media app, the app. Web 2 would be, I'd say, more apps as opposed to websites.
Okay.
in the idea that people can like build these audiences. Whereas before YouTube, you go to youtube.com and you look up a video or something like that. Ebaum's World for the OGs. Those initial things, like the internet was a computer platform. Like you go on the internet, and then it became sort of personal and is the word ubiquitous? Is that a word?
Yeah.
Right? Like everywhere.
I know what you mean,
with
yeah.
everybody at all times. So access to all that information you initially had, plus the innovations of the app store and Apple and the app world and people being able to now sort of more customize the platforms to themselves. And then I guess Web3 is potentially like further nichifying that so that people can now build these micro audiences and monetize them so that I have no concept. I have no language for Web3.
I think that's like
Did I get it?
The top layer of it.
And also Word Muncher was probably part of Web 1. I forgot about that.
What is that?
Word Muncher and Kid Pics.
What's that?
Aren't you a 90s kid? Word Muncher?
I don't know what that is.
It's a frog that ate words that you had to like spell.
Like a game?
It was a game on Web 0.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
Word Muncher and Super Muncher.
I remember Math Blaster.
Whatever.
Go through math problems.
It's a Yavna Kids game. Wait,
no,
did I get it kind of right?
Not really.
Good.
I mean, those are the ways people used it. Web 1, the way I've heard explained, was sort of like read only, where someone else could put stuff on the screen and you could consume it, like AOL. Like you can go to NewYorkTimes.com and read an article. Web 2 allowed you to interact and create your own content. So like writing a blog and giving it to somebody else, or commenting and connecting with other people, and it was interactive
Social.
and like content and like creation. But in order to have the platforms that could allow that to be done well, we traded in sort of this like kind of like wild west of the internet for like a couple major companies will control it. It'll centralize all that power, but in exchange, we're going to get these beautiful websites that allow us to really easily create these things and share them. Web 3 is decentralizing those companies and allowing you to not just give your content to like a central power to then blast it out to everybody else, but you're almost blasting it out yourself, and you're keeping that content to yourself, and you can take it wherever you want to go.
So instead of having a Facebook account, you are Facebook.
Exactly. You have Ami, and I can take that to whatever Web3 application I want with all of my shit, with all of my bags. I mean, I think who
decentralizes the platforms? The market?
The companies that it's because the websites are built. Again, I'm sure someone is going to correct me. That'd be great if you commented. But no, it's because they're built on the blockchain, which allows you to take that information, I believe, from like blockchain to blockchain. So you're not just putting something.
There's a ledger.
Yeah, I think I've already gotten into like I don't really understand how it works, but that's sort of the promise of it, where there's no one company that can turn the switch off. It's owned by all the creators, and everyone contributing to the platform itself has a piece of that network. So there's not one person that can shut it off. Even China,
it's a digital footprint, and everything you put out is traceable to you. Like Instagram could delete all your videos tomorrow if it wanted to, and this protects against that.
Yeah.
Which conceptually, I can understand a service that or an entity that protects against that. Yeah. But effectively, right now, the way it is with Web 2, if that's what we're calling it, you're making content and then you're distributing it on multiple platforms to try to spread out and get to people, as opposed to like posting it to Mike and Ami. And everyone comes to Mike and Ami and enjoys it.
I don't know literally how it would work, but the promise of it is that sort of on the back end, if you contribute, you own a piece of it.
You own a piece of what?
Relative to the value you create. I don't know exactly.
Yeah, I don't know exactly.
Yeah,
I think my definition of Web 1, 2, and 3 was way better, but you're probably correct.
It allowed mobile sort of. Being able to interact allowed something like mobile to make sense, and being able to do it whatever this new way is going to allow other things to make sense. I don't think there's a killer app. Everyone's waiting for some killer app that allows someone like me to just shut up and be like, here, take a look at this, and then you're like, oh, I get it. You're not going to have to explain it when the thing actually works. I don't think right now there's nothing like that right now.
The things that are like bubbling up is all of this. Like, look, at a certain point, everyone gets too stretched, and you can't just keep putting out stuff for free to build an audience and not like have the mechanisms to support yourself off of it. So like TikTok offered tips features where people can tip a video. They're like putting the Patreon-y kind of stuff into the apps, you know. Reels is offering bonuses. There are these financial incentives now as they compete with each other to like get users. Snapchat had Spotlight, which I heard about, where they were rewarding $1 million a day, but not to one person. Like they split the pot because they like they're thirsty for content.
Right.
And TikTok was the major disruptor there because TikTok aggregate like just sucked up all the best content creators into TikTok.
Right.
But again, I'm interested to see for a time when I understand it fully because I don't.
I am also, and I don't really get how like cryptocurrency works into all that anyway. But how do we even get here?
I don't know. Cryptocurrency to me, I get how it could be an effective means of exchange. Yeah. I don't get how it has inherent value in and of itself.
It doesn't, but I mean, people would say, what does a green dollar have inherent value with
nothing
either?
really, only what it can get you. So I get, but now like the fact that that bubble, I don't know anything about this stuff, but you want to be in on it, but you're also like, I don't understand.
It's all very exciting to me. To me, it scratches this itch that it scratches the same itch that makes me like skeptical of Jordan Peterson of just like there's no one person who can screw things up, and the promise of it is sort of putting power back in the hands of the masses, which is just very exciting.
Gary Vee's all about the NFT thing, which which is exciting. I like. It's cool to exist to be aware of like innovation as it's happening before it's born, before like it's realized.
Yeah,
you're like watching like this stuff we don't understand that will eventually like. I guess when the internet was happening, you couldn't explain it.
Right.
To the boomers in the 90s, you're like, no, there's this thing, and you'll be able to like, you'll be like, what? Yeah, you'll be able to like send email. What do you mean? Yeah. What is that? On what?
Yeah.
No, it's like through the computers. It's like explaining radio before it exists. So like we're in that space now with this stuff. Which is cool.
Even with like when people like shit on NFTs, it's like someone when Facebook first coming up going like, they're not your friend. What do you mean they're my friend? You're like, no, it's something else. It's called a Facebook friend. There's no real corollary for it. There's no corollary for it.
There's no corollary. But true. And it was
it's
a joke.
new thing.
What is YouTube? It's puppy videos. How stupid.
Right.
It's the most powerful platform.
Right. And when someone figures out, someone will figure out an NFT that makes so much sense that you'll be like, I get it. It's like when you went traveling and all of a sudden you were messaging with someone from Australia who you'd never ever keep in touch with. Like, this is Facebook. Yeah. I get what a Facebook friend is.
You have to be 35 now to be on it because everyone's way over 30.
Apparently.
It's a dad. It's a mom and dad.
Is that it? Is that true?
It's so old. Everyone there is the one. That's what we started with. Like kids are not on Facebook.
They're not?
I don't know if they're on. I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe through Instagram you have to create a Facebook account. I have no idea. But like they're just not there.
Yeah.
I'm excited for the day where it'll be just a normal thing where someone's like putting on a concert. Be like, are you going in person or are you going to go virtual? Mm-hmm. Like you can go to a space and you could like wire in and watch the show or be live. And it literally looks almost indistinguishable. Like you put on your things and you're watching and there's like a corner of people wired in or holographic technology, like the hologram.
Yeah.
Where somebody appears right in front of you. They're wearing goggles or something. What they see. In other words, you're a band, you're playing, and you're looking at a screen, and you see an audience. Maybe you're wearing goggles, and they're in a specific space, a central space, or not. And when they see is you, everyone is looking at the same thing, and you're looking at the same thing, but no one's actually together. That's creepy, and I also like. It wouldn't supplement for the real thing, but it's better than having nothing.
Right.
Like, maybe the band would have to be together, but it's like we're going to live stream this, and instead of this removed thing where you're all on the screen watching, and we're like here. Yeah. You're wearing something and it's immersive. So it literally looks like you're at the show and we're at the show.
Are you saying the government and Facebook are in cahoots to like make the metaverse happen? Like keep everyone locked at home?
I know you
make
are.
The metaverse happen.
You are. Oh, the lockdown stuff. We could go in that. That's a whole other segment. But
well, you know what? That was a real joke. But when you said that, it makes
it sounds dystopian.
Being home makes that stuff obviously a lot more plausible,
desirable too.
Yeah.
Like that's what you need. Yeah. In the future, 2045, people will be on their couch. What is she doing? Oh, she's wired in. For 20 years, she's been that way. She feeds through a tube, watching concerts.
She's wired in.
She's wired
we
in.
We visit her once a year.
It's so dystopian, but at the same time, what's the positive? It's you being able to connect with people you otherwise couldn't. It shouldn't.
Yeah.
You have to just be careful not to substitute the real thing when that's possible, but only to be as an additive to enhance what isn't there.
Right.
Like a real in-person thing. Anyway, the COVID stuff is really.
Yeah.
We don't have to.
We
It's
don't have to get
exhausting.
into
We
that.
don't have to. But it's never ending for some people. They just love it.
Yeah. I met Mike at this other wedding I went to. My cousins came out. They haven't been out since March 2020 to an indoor in-person event. Wild.
People, I mean, it seems like people just have lost their minds with this stuff and become completely germophobic. Not like, it's just like, doesn't seem rational at a certain point.
On the other hand, we have a cousin.
Not
who,
even
who
seem,
got,
it's so irrational.
He got COVID, early on, and he's still recovering from it. It's been like years at this point. Or whatever, a long time. He has like one of those long cases. Like,
you don't think he's like making that? Your gut to tell you he's making that up? No, I believe that, but that was COVID then. There's a difference between then and now. There has to be. That's the point of the vaccines and all the progress and the treatments. Then and now. March 2020 is different than now. That was the whole effort.
Can you not get a long case anymore?
I guess you don't know, but certainly being vaccinated can prevent. That's the idea. It's just that it minimizes it.
Minimizes the risk.
Right. And look, unknown is unknown. So I get that fear, but is it enough to just stop to like prevent people from resuming?
He had
a
funny answer. I asked him, I'm like, aren't you're making a calculated risk at some point? He's like, honestly, I don't like seeing people that much. So like, whatever.
Fair enough. His prerogative. I'm just talking about this idea
I get that.
This mindset that every new thing has to be met with the same amount of alarm as when it first started. Which was justified. When it first started, we had no tests, we had no vaccines, we had no trusted treatments.
Yeah.
And we sort of knew it affected old people worse, but it was spooky. And quickly we learned like it wasn't hurting kids that much. Thank God. Like you started to get that information. But like 2 years later, there's still this culture of alarmism with every new development and every new thing. It doesn't mean you don't like try to think things through and whatever, but this rush to abundance of caution, lock down everything at any new trace of it seems so wild to me, given the advancements we've made against it. Don't you want to celebrate that and like be able to adapt with it? Whatever, I don't know. It's just like, but you then you hear some people are like, yeah, we're still doing outside, we're still going to, and it just baffles me a little bit. I can't quite understand that unless it's bringing out people's inherent phobias of things, germophobia or whatever.
Well, that was
there all along.
In like the first episode that we did back in the day, I think I said it's more of a manifestation of people are like, I kind of would just want to stay home and see the world kind of burn the way it feels like it is when I go on to CNN or Fox News or whatever. Yeah, it's just kind of like feels right. So why not? Let's stay home.
Do it if you want to, but don't tell other people. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But like people have developed these like instincts, like, oh, I don't know, there's going to be a crowd. It's like, yeah. No, like what does that mean then? Or this whole idea of like, even the whole vaccination campaign to get every single person, regardless of your, like that we can't get back. The standard now is unless every single man, woman, and child is vaccinated, it can't go back to normal. When initially it was like, we need to vaccinate the vulnerable people. We need to vaccinate the elderly. And now it's like, we're holding a hostage normal life until this ridiculous standard of every child, which never was that at risk of getting hurt by COVID. You know what I mean? And holding that hostage, it's insane.
I just got an email from my work. I don't work in the office anymore, but part-time.
I know everyone's going to hear me saying this is like so anti-vax. It's like I'm vaccinated. I got 2 vaccines and I got a breakthrough case and thank God.
No, and so am I.
But it's just like everybody's calling bullshit at a certain point. It's just you're pushing everybody.
Right.
Like, well, hey, guys. Especially with New York, what's going on? Of course, we have to talk about this.
Yeah, so I just got an email saying everyone in the office has to send in their vaccination reports, their cards, or the company's going to get fined. Right. My first thought was like,
well, Bill de Blasio is working with all of New York, working with the business community. And listen, folks, we cannot go back to March 2020.
I don't know what he sounds like.
You know what Bill de Blasio sounds like? He kind of sounds like this. He's such a loser. He's such a hateable guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
he's running for president.
He did last time.
He's running again.
Yeah. So listen, folks. We're working with the business community, and this is about public safety. I don't even think it is anymore. Like that's the thing. I'm not one of these like conspiracy theorists, but I don't think it's about public safety anymore. It's about control, like that whole thing. Yeah. It's like that whole impossible standard. Now, kids 5, as young as 5, they are get vaccinated to basically go anywhere.
It's wild, yeah. It's
not gonna
wild.
happen.
I don't think it's
People
going to
aren't
be
gonna do
enforced.
it.
No restaurant is going to turn away business because the kid's not
Or
vaccinated.
you'll just be able to
and
get
they're
these
not gonna
fake cards, and
enforce
it'll
it.
make every. I'll be like, yeah, this is this thing. Be like, okay, just show us a napkin with a boogie on it, and that's it. But I'm just saying, it's like, when did it become about vaccinating every single person as opposed to vaccinate?
Yeah. Well,
Look, I don't pretend to have authority over the microbiology and virology of all of this, but it's just the narrative. I am aware of the narrative shifting constantly.
Trevor Noah just got into some trouble because he was like, maybe everyone should get a booster. He said this on the Daily Show. Maybe everyone should get a booster, but we shouldn't do it because the CEO of Moderna tells us to. Like, let's hear it from somebody else before we listen to the guy who's going to make $1 billion.
Isn't that?
He had a really funny
Maybe
line. I
like
forgot
we
what it
shouldn't
was.
listen to them because Pfizer's telling us to do it. You know what's funny?
Telling us to do it.
It's like, well, that's my question.
That was good.
Yeah, it's South African. I have to get it down, but like, I find that interesting. Yeah. What's interesting is like everyone, like the Fox News people have been pointing out, when did the left become so pro big pharma all of a sudden?
Yeah.
It's not just, you got to call that stuff out.
Did you see
like,
that?
What are you like, are we just unthinking doing all of this? Can't ask any questions, or you're labeled as anti-science. You can't ask, it's your children. You can't say, do we really need to? Is it necessary or whatever?
So the independent journalists that I'm reading, their big thing is like, what happened to the liberals questioning power? Like, wasn't that the point of journalists and liberalism, to question power?
Yeah.
It seems like they're just sort of getting the talking points from power and then kind of regurgitating them.
Yeah.
It's a very weird development that's going on.
It's a weird thing, and it's also, but I think a lot of it ties into like a collectivist attitude about this. Like when individualism doesn't really matter as an ethic, as the further left you go, that's not as important. Then individual decisions don't matter, individual choices don't matter. What matters is the collective, and we decide things collectively. New York does everything together. I wish the messaging was just, listen, the vaccines are safe, even for kids. So if you feel comfortable, we recommend doing it. Your choice.
Yeah.
It's not going to be contagious. It's not going to be that kids can't really spread it. Like if everything was just informational or even suggestive or prescriptive, I don't think you would see backlash. You might see the same amounts of results either way, but so be it. Then the truth is the truth.
I'm going to take your stance here. I think it's less. I really think sometimes it just comes down to people get up in the morning who like work in policy and government, and they go to work and they have to do something. Yeah. And this is just the thing to do now. And like, that just is just like we got to do something today.
Got to pass a law. Got to do a thing.
Like let's keep going forward with this and pushing it. It seems like that's what we should do today.
Yeah,
honestly, it seems it's like
fair point. But I'm just saying, I think results wise, you may not see increased whatever, but it makes it less trustworthy. When the narrative, it's more about undermining your own credibility as public health officials and institutions when you keep doing it. And every time someone tries to call bullshit, you call them something else. So you reframe what they're saying as skeptical of science. And then you're like, it makes people question their own minds and their own, like, doesn't this seem ridiculous? And even at some point, like more and more, I've seen more and more people just say, yeah, this is just ridiculous. Yeah. Like, not people who are ideological or libertarian or any of this, just regular people are just like, yeah. People who I've been in arguments with over the years, like because I tend to be more on like the live and live and do make your own choices. And people who weren't down with that in 2020 at this point are like, yeah, that doesn't seem to make sense to me. Like the no ideology.
The scale is really widening for like
people are just like, but why do we have to vaccinate every single kid? I mean, like, I'll do it if like my doctor says it's okay, I'll do it. But like, why we had to vaccinate all the kids? I don't remember that. Huh. I don't. But if the vulnerable people and comorbidities people are vaccinated, aren't they protected? And there's this confusion.
Yeah.
That was a weird noise I made.
I liked it.
Anyway, we are going to get our booster live on the podcast.
We're going to give it to each other.
1, 2, 3. We're going to close out this episode 9. I think we've gone about an hour.
Yeah, okay.
And we got through it. Oh, lots of troubleshooting. Sorry,
we want to read one thing.
Yeah.
From we mentioned the dip last time. I had the book. I grabbed it on my way up here just to clarify. Maybe because we got Seth Godin's we got Scott Godin's message wrong, so I want to clarify Scott's message.
Seth Godin.
This is the dip as he defines it. Every new project or career or relationship starts out exciting and fun, then it gets harder and less fun until it hits a low point. Really hard, really not fun. At this point, you might be in a dip, which will get better if you keep pushing, or you might be in a cul-de-sac, which will never get better no matter how hard you try. The hard part is knowing the difference and acting on it. So just to clarify that from last time. And Ami, I mean, you started before we recorded. You feel like we're making our way through the dip. So wish us luck.
What would you have done if I decked you in the face mid-read? Just as like an ultimate expression of aggravation for this whole setup. You might be in a cul-de-sac. Episode 9. That would have been a good way to go out.
Yeah.
So put your hands up on my hip. When I dip, you dip, we dip. That's episode 9. Buckle up, baby.
Buckle up, baby.
Oh, see you next time.